The web is another world of its own, full of amazing everyday experiences. To some, it is home, and without it, there is no living. But it is also true that it has become a soft pun for people with criminal and devious tendencies to carry out their nefarious activities and lure innocent minds captive, thus inflicting harm that cannot be healed for centuries, instead of becoming a succor to mankind, which was its purpose of existence. Join me as I unveil these darkest, real-life dark web Reddit horror stories. Story 1. Criminality is not being smart. I was a gentle, laid-back, easygoing young man before now. I required a certain career that fit my personality. You know, my father explicitly instructed me to visit this website, and that a buddy of his would be waiting to guide me in, being the son of a politician. Even though I was curious about my father's meaning behind that, I dared not probe too much until I was certain of his intentions. Who knows, maybe it's a surprise for graduation. Although I wasn't sure what direction my father was attempting to give me, he pulled out his brand new laptop, gave it to me to look at, and gave me directions. Like always, I obeyed him without question. I initially chose to investigate his brand new laptop, which is always by his side. After some time, I happened to stumble into the dark web without any delay. I immediately began conversing with someone, or he was waiting for me, and he provided me with some instructions on how to wire an insurance company from his house and place of business. I work in conduit wiring, so I was curious as to why the wiring was going to his home rather than the government house or any other government agency. Moreover, he is not the DG there. Instead, he is simply a politician, much like my father. I kept cool and decided to wait for my father, who returned and told me that bread doesn't fall from the sky, but somebody has been feeding me from the cradles, paying my bills, clothing me, and giving me one of the most decent estates in this city to shelter me. My father enjoys using me as a scapegoat and reminds me of everything this family has done for me. He makes me think of my experience as a voiceless adopted child. I gave him a direct look and replied, "Yes, Father." "Well said," he said. "How much did you negotiate, and when are you starting?" I remained silent, and he shot back, calling me stupid. "Are you providing free illegal wiring services? Let me place the card face up on the table for you." "Oh no, that's not it. This is only the start of the work you have ahead of you." He advised me to stick to his friend and to charge him for every job. One of the wealthiest politicians, Scott Jims, has also been prosecuted for various illicit transactions. Nevertheless, all of the legal cases brought against him were dismissed in the absence of proof. This enhanced his notoriety and character traits as well. I was paid nicely for my work and cleverly completed the covert wiring. But that was my first job, and I did it without fail. My father requested the most costly wine appropriate for his rank as part of his appreciation package, and my mother was quite proud of me. I didn't even blink when I did it for him. My father suggested that I use the money I earned from my first illicit contract to purchase a place of my own. I accepted it even though it made me feel unloved and undesired. My mother concurred with my father, so I left to acquire a house of my own. After Soyo completed his training on the dark web with his unidentified invisible pals, I was shocked to learn that we would be breaking into people's accounts in Scott Jim's affluent suburb. If an account is found to be impossible, its owner will be abducted and forced to pay a hefty ransom. I attempted to flee this wickedness during the midday, but Mr. Scott Jim informed me that I was breaking government laws and that he had a video of my illegal wiring. After telling me how much he had given up to keep the family afloat, and how it was now my turn to do the same for my own family and friendship, my so-called father sweet-talked me into doing it. Once more I gave in, and the shame and stigma that followed are stories I always tell while crying. My first task was to break into a new account that an affluent elderly woman had formed and transfer a substantial amount of money that not even my politician father had ever had before. My boss was quite proud of us when I achieved it with Soyo's help. That night, my partner and I slept in a 5-star hotel, and we were paid nicely, but I wasn't there. I lived with constant remorse. After some time, I realized that I enjoyed doing my work carelessly, as long as the money kept coming in. Who cares who is injured, except in my heart? Something would soon go wrong and I will pay for my mistakes. I eventually out-earned Soyo and became smarter than him. We had a mission one summer to abduct a man who opposed our nasty boss politician, Scott. He has attempted to get him with his special thugs, but in vain. He believes that no one can suspect us, which is why he sent Soyo and me. He committed a grave error. We attended a seminar that our victim hosted at his house while we were dressed elegantly for men, driving fancy automobiles and wearing costly perfumes. Without bouncers or security guards, entry was simple. He had free access, but why couldn't Scott's special thugs get him? We pretended to be guests from the media. We were almost made to present our means of identification by one of his media friends, who swore he never met us when our target told him to avoid arguments. He introduced us as friends, showed us around a covert flat, and gave us drinks while arguing that everyone should be given a fair trial. After asking a few light-hearted questions and exchanging pleasantries, we were ready to give him a silent injection when he ran up and grabbed Soyo by the iron, not human, legs. Simultaneously, I observed a fluid-like material emerge from it and slide down Soyo's legs. The hardened criminal let out an agonized cry, clutching his chest and knees together. I tried to escape, but his trained elephant-sized dog held me back and covered my mouth with his paws, so as not to scream and attract the attention of his friends. There was blood and tears all over my suit. After a few hours, all I could see of Soyo were his white bones, as his flesh began to dry off. I confessed who we were and our objective before I passed out. I found a terrifying message in my room when I woke up, demanding I kill Scott and expose his true identity to the public, or risk being executed for the murder of my partner Soyo. A tale I know is false, but who is going to believe me? Scott is an old crook and quite powerful, so I can't murder him. The one demanding Scott's death is a mafia member, and he is more corrupt and cunning than Scott. Therefore, I am powerless to defy him too. The deep blue sea and the devil have me ensnared. I turned myself into the police and confessed my sins, but there was no evidence linking Scott or any other person to my crimes. After serving several years in prison, I was allowed to go. I got away from everything and everyone and joined the missionaries. Story 2. There is no faking of nefarious activity. There is no gain in being a mafia member, nor is there any profit in cultism. It is more dangerous and demeaning when you claim that you are not the bad guy you are thought to be. While sharing my story does not always make me feel good or at ease, some people need to realize that what they want and enjoy today could cause them to suffer later. If you live to talk about it, you will be grateful to everyone who has told you the truth, even though you may curse them now. And so I enjoy playing games and doing various online activities. I once dated a female I met online, and I stayed with her until we ended things, even after learning he was a boy just like me. I've pulled a few harmless jokes online, like April Fool's Day, and most people fell for it, but I have never before done what I'm about to tell you now. As usual, I decided to have some fun while browsing the internet and explore the dark web further. After discovering some odd symbols of a certain cult, I created a well-thought-out design using a combination of components and uploaded it to the internet. But this was a big mistake. I had comments from people who wanted to join within hours, calling me the cult master, which is not who I am. I left after laughing about it. After a few days, the number grew. So I decided to sample the false cult lifestyle to see what it's truly like. My mother attempted to intervene, but I suddenly disrespected her and even threatened to have my G's deal with her if she did stop me from running my cult. She then abandoned me to my fate. By rolling our eyes in various directions, we could force anyone to comply with our wishes. I gave a favorable response, and that was that. We grew like wildfire, and soon found ourselves holding embarrassing private sessions. Usually, we protest anywhere to get what we want. The guys in my cult are highly competent artists with a variety of criminal backgrounds. We shared a passion for drinks and drugs. Above all, we are so unified that we consistently achieve our goals. When a significant person celebrates their birthday, we make a special effort to celebrate it in style. To increase our income and further our goals, we occasionally loot supermarkets. We don't rush to the females. Instead, we scream out to them and show our feelings in an insensitive manner. One weekend, my father, who works in a different town, decided to see me at home in addition to the reports he had been receiving about my behavior. He attempted to enter my chamber, but I barred him from doing so and told him to respect me and my privacy at all times, or he would join the worms, which meant I would kill him. My father was horrified by my looks as we were speaking, and a few days later, he left the house and never returned. Despite her constant shock and sadness, my mother stayed with me. Instead, she tolerated my cynical and snarky way of life because she loved me. It's my birthday, and here comes trouble. My guys promised to declare me the city's #1 leader tonight, and they said our enemies will fall tonight. I believed they were bluffing. We traveled to the deep woods, where a magnificent ceremony was held on my behalf. I was informed that one of my members had been tracked down here after raping his girlfriend. It was already too late when we attempted to call our friends who work at the police department. My guys did not give up, even as they drew closer to us. After exchanging gunfire, several of them were shot dead. I feigned to give up and ran into the woods to an isolated location before they could find me. After 2 days of hiding from the hunt, an elderly hunter eventually discovered me in the woods and provided me with food and shelter. Over my 2 years with him, I utterly changed who I was. Before the hunter took me to live with his son abroad, I promised him that I would never participate in any bad behavior or wrongdoing on the internet. Do you love scary stories? Then don't forget to check out our previous video.